is it a dream? Am I in heaven? Am I in heaven? The vibe is tight and I'm lost with you. It's all love, baby, through and through. This beat is sick and it's my scene. Am I in heaven or is it a dream? Yeah. Am I in heaven?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Almost Patriots, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Lucky to have Chris here at my house. He's about 2 feet over. You can't see him.
What up?
But you can hear him.
Unfortunately, I guess.
He's in a great mood today. That's going to be great for the show, guys. And Mike, as always, in New York. Thanks for joining us.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better, buddy. So this week we got a lot to talk about. None of it is structured. So this week I think we're gonna do it a little bit more laid back. Every once in a while, we'll have some of these shows. There's so much in the news. We're just gonna chit chat about everything that comes to mind. Hit us up in the chat too if you guys have questions or anything that you want us to talk about or discuss, or pretty much tear to pieces or make fools of ourselves. But we'll talk about it. Lots of stuff going on this week. How was everybody's week, guys? How is Chris is here, so he's been here all week. But how's the weather in New York, buddy?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. It's so warm out right now. I think today was a high of like 17 degrees. With the wind chill factor, I felt like my big toe caught frostbite. It's disgusting.
Uvula?
My face is...
Yeah.
Yeah, my face is like literally breaking out because it's like blistering from how cold it is.
It's not all the candy bars you ate.
So you
Yeah,
weren't
pretty
able
much.
to practice tennis, is what you're saying?
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not wearing my original hat that I wear every episode. I wasn't able to get on the courts today and work on my backhand, which I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking especially egg-headed, which is great because this is a show about talking and everything
I
like
want to
that.
hear more about Mike's backhand. Tell me about that.
It's very good. So typically
Are
I
there
lead with my
any
right foot
young
while
women
I'm going.
involved, or it's just
Huh?
tennis? What?
Usually I use a backhand very strongly when I'm smacking
Mm.
Ricardo over the head with one of his jokes or he puts me in timeout. I have to focus on that. So when he comes to New York to see some hockey, I get it going.
So do you still baby powder the back of the hand, or is that just the front? I'm just making sure I
No, no,
understand.
no. I think you're missing it. That's Vaseline. That's Vaseline.
Oh, okay.
You have to remember that movie Striptease with Burt Reynolds. There's a scene when
Well, so for just to be clear, nobody cares that Burt Reynolds was in that movie. Demi Moore
Yeah,
was in
it's
that
Demi
movie.
Moore, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely,
You don't
absolutely.
describe striptease with like the sub guys, like
Yeah.
the supporting guys role. It's Demi
Yeah.
Moore.
Yeah, there's a scene in Striptease. It's hilarious, and he plays like a senator or something. And she like comes into a room, and he's in his pants and boots. Chris, will you mute your mic? And he's in pants and boots, and it smells. And she's like, it smells like Vaseline. And he's like, it's because I put it all over my body. I like the way it feels. It's squishy in between my toes. So I think that scene was probably one of the funniest ones of the whole movie.
That was my reference, actually, to my comment before. That was the reference I was using.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm actually
Anyway.
shocked that you picked up on it.
And yeah, I did.
I
did.
haven't seen that movie in 20 years, so I don't know.
Well, you do live in Indianapolis, so they're like 20 years behind. So you'll probably, hopefully it comes out in a theater near you soon.
I mean, I feel like I was like in 7th grade or something when Striptease and what was the other one? Showgirls came out. Like those are like yeah.
Which one's Showgirls again?
Oh yeah, the girl from.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I don't remember which one it is that
The-
was.
the-
Girl from
what-
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
You remember Saved by the Bell?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Now I remember.
Somebody was saying like I saw like or there was some like interview about like the making of that movie, and they're like everybody was on cocaine. Like everybody in that movie, all they this is what it looks like when you make a movie. And you're on
Shocker.
cocaine.
Shocker.
It was like one of the few NC-17 movies. That was an interesting movie to watch.
So
Yeah, I think
you
they-
saw it when you were in 7th or 8th grade?
No, I'm young, probably younger than that. I'm like 5th grade, maybe somewhere in there.
Be honest. How many times did you watch it after school? Be honest. You probably had the cassette.
No, I couldn't get. I could. We like a buddy of mine. His aunt had to rent it for us. Like we were like 11 or 12 or something.
How many times did you watch it when your aunt or your friend's aunt rented it? Be honest.
Just the one time.
Did you have
I
a
mean,
TV? Did you have a TV set in the bathroom for yourself?
There's two guys in a room watching a movie. It's
I'm a little concerned now going forward
Mm.
after you told me that.
Yeah, I
two
think
guys in a
I'm
room.
pretty concerned exactly with what's
Yeah.
going on.
Two guys in a room watching striptease.
So in the news, guys, this week, just I know we're a little tired of talking about Doge. I know Chris was telling me he was kind of over it, but I did think it was interesting that these guys are deciding to audit Fort Knox. So that's an interesting little thing. I do know a couple of things about this, and I know there's some comments on social media about how Britain had been sending shiploads of gold to the United States. And I do know that is for some sort of a certification process so that they can actually leverage that gold on the market. And it has to be brought over and counted in hand. So there's nothing weird, as far as I know, about that. But I mean, who the fuck knows what's inside the actual Fort Knox? And I saw today that there was a post about them maybe doing a live stream, when they actually go down there and like count the gold. What do you guys think? I mean, like I didn't even think about this as being an issue. I even forgot about the gold, but it's a getting off the gold standards is one of the reasons that we're in an enormous deficit as it is today. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think it'd be cool. It'd be cool as shit to just take a look. I mean, Nothing like it's just as long as it's not like that what was that gangster where they found his hideout and it turned out there was like nothing, like they found a vault for God, what was that? It was a gangster in New York. What's his name? They found his hideout and then they live streamed them opening the thing and there was like nothing in it.
I don't know.
Oh my
I'm
God,
sorry.
you guys suck.
I think
Was
it
he a
was.
mobster? Was he a mobster? Like was it
Al
John
Capone.
Gotti?
Might have been Al Capone.
I think it was Bill Cosby.
Yeah, they probably found Quaaludes there. No, I think it was John Gotti. I think it might have been John Gotti or somebody where it was like he had a secret room in his house and it was supposed to be filled with money and whatnot. And when they opened like the safe or whatever, there was basically nothing in it.
No, it was like Capone maybe, and they like Geraldo did like a live show where they like were gonna open it, and then it was like empty. It was like this whole big thing. I think it was Capone.
I thought Capone was Chicago.
What was the
Capone
guy that was
Chicago.
missing? What was the guy that we Jimmy Hoffa? I think it might have been Jimmy Hoffa. It was one of those. It was like one of those gangsters, and they like did a live taping.
Geraldo, there's a guy whose mustache made his whole career. Entire career.
Yeah.
Without that mustache, ain't nobody cares what that motherfucker has to say.
And
Yeah,
you
it is
know the
pretty
worst
epic.
part is? The worst part is Geraldo was a part of so many fucking newscasts and part of so much. Like, he's been involved in so much, but you'll always remember him because of his mustache. That's legendary. Absolutely legendary. Like, what's the other one? Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck's mustache is fucking on a whole nother level.
But that's like apples and oranges. Tom Selleck is a decent human being. I mean, he's not some
Yeah, he was
like,
a good actor. He was a good actor.
parasitic journalist that's going around being like, "Hey, man, out here, I'm live from dead people." Like nobody wants to hear that. Like, you know.
Yeah, going back to Fort Knox, I don't know if I really want them to live stream, like to see if there's actually gold down there. I love the transparency about what they're doing, but if there is no gold down there and they're live streaming, there
Yeah.
could be detrimental effects on the economy and
Yeah,
the strength of
what's
the
the
dollar.
national security
What's-
implementation?
What's that
Yeah.
site? We should check out real quick to see if Polymarket has odds on whether the gold is.
I
gonna
think it was
be-
7%. They said 7%.
That there's no. There's
93.
not.
No, it's
93% is there.
93%. It's there, yeah. 7%. It's not there. Yeah, that was the last time I saw it. But yeah, I don't know if I really would do the live stream. I can understand why they would want to do it, but there could be ramifications from that, and I don't know if I'm really ready for that because that could kind of cripple an economy, if you know what I mean. If
But I
there's
mean, we're not
nothing
on
down there.
We're not on the gold standard, and I mean, and I don't know who's viewing or who's gonna fucking watch this, but like, we should definitely go through the history of it. Basically, I want to say, was it 1979? 1979.
Started way before. Started way before
Yeah,
that.
started way before that.
Well, so basically, we were on a gold standard for quite a long time for fiat currency, and then in 1979, Richard Nixon did a temporary pause on Sunday evening of the requirement to have bills be certified by gold, and that pause has been in effect since. And that ushered in the ability for the Fed or the the central bank to basically print or sell the United States at a percentage as much money as possible without there being any gold. So this is one of the key factors in causing why we have a deficit. And so all that was kept in Fort Knox, and gold is still pretty fucking valuable. So
Hey, Ricardo, I just want to let you know, I think we should make a informational video on that so people understand what you're saying. Oh, wait, by the way, continue.
Speaking of that, guys, if you haven't, shout out to everybody watching. If you guys haven't checked out our YouTube channel, we just released an informational video. One of the things that we're doing here on the podcast, besides talking bullshit, is we're going out and taking some of the key concepts here that we really like, and we're gonna make some sort of like, not instructional videos, but just like little, like almost like what do you call those, public safety announcements or stuff with little bits
PSA.
of
PSAs?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Exactly. We'll just
It's not a PSA, people.
Right.
It's not
we
a
want,
PSA.
We want to help people just understand kind of like what we're doing. And let me go ahead and share this page. If you guys haven't been to the YouTube page, it is pretty cool. Check it out. Right here. And as you can see, we have a couple videos. And the one we released this week, it's called The Art of Leadership, The Power of Fellowship. It's a little fictional story that helps highlight some points in the importance of fellowship and being a good leader. That one is sponsored by Chris. Mine over here, I've been doing a little bit of health stuff. The hidden costs of ultra processed foods. That's a cool one to check out. The cool thing about these videos is they're pretty much PG, so you can share them and use them if you're using them to present this material in general anywhere if it's useful. So that's pretty cool. But a little quick segue there. So check out our YouTube channel, guys. We're gonna have some more information coming out. A lot more different stuff coming in, and possibly here a podcast about just sports. Maybe do like a monthly here. These guys are going to talk about sports while I sleep.
Yep, because Ricardo doesn't know anything about sports besides his Washington Commanders.
I do. I just don't care. I care more about music. Not that I don't care. I just care more about music, right?
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
And I already live stream all day, so it's nobody wants to hear my shit. Anyways, guys, so check that out in the viewership. Also, if you're a pilot these days, things are not looking really good for you. I feel like there's been a lot of fucking plane crashes everywhere, helicopter crashes, all sorts of aviation shit. But the latest one is this plane that landed. It looked like it was landing okay, and then it flipped upside down. I'm not sure how that happened. Once again, having an aviation expert here on the show helps us determine the outcome of some of these events. But I didn't even really see what happened, guys. So fill me in. Let me know what's up. I didn't see anything about this. What's up with the plane that flipped upside down?
Well, can you hear me? Yeah. I've seen the video, and judging by how much snow there was on the ground and how bright it was outside, it would not surprise me if they sort of had some depth perception issues and just thought they were a little higher than they were. What's really bothering me about this whole thing is everyone is throwing this DEI thing out there, and like, am I going to sit here and say that couldn't be a possibility? No, but like, we don't know that. So like, I feel like it's immature and premature to say that DEI is the cause of like all this stuff. I mean, again,
well, how about why the fuck did the plane flip upside down? How about that first?
Came in too hard. I mean, landed too hard. So
yeah, it came in too hard, and it looked like it rolled over. Or flipped over best way. And Chris, by the way, I agree with you. I'm kind of sick of the DEI. Everything is DEI argument. Look, are there programs in place with DEI? Absolutely. Do I think basically hiring pilots and certain positions based on the color of their skin or their gender is the wrong way? Absolutely. But not everything is DEI. And I'm sorry, we're throwing that phrase out so often now. It's kind of losing its utility, and I can't deal with it anymore. First of all, I think I saw an article that the pilot was white.
Of course.
He was bald. He was a white bald guy.
I mean, but I mean, right. And so like I have to say that the effects of DEI or any negative effects of DEI are not so much that we're going to like just see like, oh shit, every fucking fuck up that ends up on the news is because of DEI. I don't think that's necessarily like what we're really talking about. I think in general, instead of like blaming DEI or blaming programs and being contradictory, I think what we need to do is try to formulate like a new, more positive future, right? And let's talk about, like what is the efficiency of airplane safety and what are the merits that are needed to keep our airplanes and our people that are in them safe in general, overall, based on operations and history. Right, and then put people who are the most familiar and talented in those positions, regardless of what they fucking look like. I don't care if you're green, right? But like, it's not just the positions; it's the entire laziness of the corporations and oversight that really need to understand. Like, guys, our bare minimum, right, for collecting, share money and for collecting money from passengers is to at least keep them safe and get them going. Let's have a structure in place that's merit based, that's outcome based, that's metric based, that's going to ensure that we have safety beyond a doubt. So we can minimize these things, and then we'll put the people in position that best serve those roles, regardless of who they are, right? Whether they have 3 arms or 1. Yeah.
So unfortunately, this is across basically all industries that require like opposable thumbs and some sort of certification. In this particular instance, the FAA certification, you need licenses to work on airplanes. A lot of this is stemming from what was called the Great Resignation. For those of you who haven't heard it, just look it up. But essentially, COVID kind of pushed a lot of the boomer and like older Gen X generation into retirement early. And so there's been this kind of void that's been floating around in a lot of these industries that require certifications for like hard work, essentially like manual labor, right? And they're not replenishing these people at the same rate that they were retiring or that they are retiring. There's tons of research out there you can, if you want to, if you're interested. But the problem is, it's, you know, my generation, the millennials, are not really doing those jobs, and Gen Z is not really doing those jobs, and so there's just not enough people. And so I think across the board, and the ATC is just an example, pilots are an example, mechanics are an example of all these industries where people just are kind of overworked. And I'm not surprised that there are issues. I feel like maybe this might be kind of just a, you know, swing of the pendulum, and we're sort of accentuating a lot of these things. Like we're having confirmation bias. Like, you know, it's like you see the red car, you buy a Toyota 4Runner like I have, and all of a sudden everybody has a Toyota 4Runner. But that's not true. They were already there the whole time.
I have a Ford.
You just didn't notice because you didn't have one, right? So I feel like some of that's being in play right now too. So
I just want to bring my 2 cents in here. Do you think it's overworked or corporate greed? See, it's a
combination.
Yeah, so I think there's also a fundamental issue also on the airplane manufacturers and companies themselves. I think corporate profits and greed are also taking over in this area, because you look at the example of Boeing a couple years ago. Instead of taking the planes back in, they tried to do a quick fix, which cost them gravely. But what did Boeing do? They laid off how many workers? They didn't want unions. They moved. And I think that's a problem nowadays, where corporations are just looking too much at the bottom dollar, and not really focusing back in the day how it was about safety. You know, obviously technology changes over time, and things are a little bit easier. Flying's a little bit, aviation, you know, satellites. Okay, I understand all that, but there's still an element of the human nature of all this. You need to have somebody that knows what they're doing, but you can't fire people. Okay, you sometimes have to hire more people. Okay. I'm sorry, the CEO takes less money. The executives take less money. You need to make sure people are safe. That's one thing I wanted to say. The second thing I also want to say is, we live in a time of social media. Everything that happens goes on the internet right away. If you didn't think that there weren't plane crashes or failed landings or issues like that in the past, you're fairly mistaken. It's just so much more prevalent. And COVID caused a lot of people to have a fear of, you know, somebody's calling me. I apologize.
Do we lose him? Turn your phone off.
This is OnlyFans.
Sorry,
anyways,
can you hear me now?
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Continue.
Sorry, let me finish my point. I apologize. COVID it made people believe that flying wasn't safe. They got worried about the vaccination situation, so it was a heightened anxiety. It's just making it 10 times worse now, because now you have all these issues. You have these plane crashes and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a behavioral standpoint, or not really behavioral, but make it like a sociological standpoint. I see a lot of things that are just on the big picture, and I'm always like at the 150,000 point view. And I see a couple things. One of the things that I see are two sectors that are sort of competing, and they have been for a number of decades. And we're talking about manufacturing, and we're talking about tech. And the pace at which tech operates, ultimately the pace at which it commands, profits, what puts, things into market, is much faster than the pace at which the logistical chains allow manufacturing to operate. And so since those two have been competing, it's been sort of a little bit of a race, right? So you got the old school guys, and I'm not saying they're old school, but they're used to making quality things that don't kill people. And those things sometimes take time. And then you have these guys who come in and they're literally making millions from computers and typing. And they're like, okay, that's a much faster pace. So that's really, I think, where it started, right? And then from there, you have to look at that from a market perspective as well. And you look at a software company that's valued at about 12 to 14 times what it's traded at. And a manufacturing company, and this might have changed a little, is valued at about 6x of what it's traded at, or 6x of revenue. And so you have a company that's moving faster, and it's getting rewarded by the market for moving faster. And so now you're on a lot of pressure. Not only are you pressure on the product side, but you're pressure on the financing side to produce products and profits at a much faster pace. So I think that's fundamentally where this all began. Where it began to trickle down, obviously, was when the pandemic hit, and so now you have this thing where you're separating physical proximity from the production. And like, if I can write code at my house, then I'm still making profits and I'm still advancing forward. But if I can't go to the factory, and if we can't mine and we can't do shit, then a lot of things that are in the manufacturing sector are being slowed down. So boom, first bump that we see. I also believe that even before this, when Trump got into office, this is a gentleman who does things really fast. Okay, he slices, he dices, he makes quick decisions, he moves, and I think the rest of the world was kind of sitting on its laurels, and it wasn't used to having to react and move as fast as he did. And so when he went in there, everything started moving a lot faster, and I think that caused some sort of things falling off the counter, as you're baking or whatever. So all of those things, I think, fundamentally exhibit sort of some of the pathologies you guys are talking about. But I think from a longer standpoint, if you look at them, this is something that started way back when the new industry of tech started gaining public ground, and it started to be financed by the market. And then you start to compare apples to oranges, which you really can't. And just coming from an experience in the corporate world where we were, where one of the companies I worked for was manufacturing and really was doing everything it could to get into the software industry as well. I can firsthand tell you that there are, many differences between the way those two organizations are run.
Well, COVID really highlighted the fragility of our supply chain system. Obviously, aviation is just a part of that. And so I think a lot of people are still scrambling to sort of fix. And look, I haven't seen anything that said the cause of the accident. So, obviously pilot error is a likelihood, but who knows? It could have been landing gear failure. We don't really know what actually caused. It looks like they came in too fast, but maybe it was just like a mechanical failure, and maybe it was like a shortcut because of some whatever. Who knows? So we could speculate all day long, but there's just a lot of. I feel like what we're seeing is a lot of the Swiss cheese model. A lot of the holes are just lining up right now, and I'm glad nobody got hurt in that particular incident, but it just sucks.
I think the pilot was watching striptease on his phone while he was coming in, and
thinking about Vaseline between his toes.
And thinking about Vaseline, and he just couldn't control the plane.
I'll tell you what, Magnum PI would have landed that fucking plane.
Absolutely.
Sully would have landed upside down.
Yeah. So, but kudos to the pilot. Kudos to the pilot
100%.
guys. Big ups. I'm so glad nobody was hurt. I'm sure it was terrifying. I'm pretty comfortable flying, but if that happened, it's traumatic for anyone. So I'm glad that it just even says good things about the way that we're making airplanes. If you're a pilot and you're out there, stop drinking and doing cocaine before you fly the plane. And
practice,
exactly.
practice,
or practice or whatever.
and
maybe
stop.
not all the time. Maybe not all. But maybe not all the time. But apparently, some planes have been falling out of the sky lately. So that's one to look at.
I would probably tell him to stop going on to Scorpion Percussion's website.
Shout out scorpionpercussion.com if you're a drummer. Scorpionpercussion.com. Anyways, guys. Big shout out to William in the chat. He has this one comment, and he wants us to talk a little bit about crypto. Shout out William. Yep. Long-time viewer, first-time customer. I understand how that is. So this is something we don't, we love to talk about. Personally, so this is interesting because I've been watching some stuff, but let's just give kind of a state of where crypto is. So crypto is getting a little bit destigmatized globally. We're seeing a lot of crypto that's sort of coming out and being used or being accepted for certain types of payments. I know that many administrations before the previous one, including the previous one, were against sort of crypto. Just because they're trying to protect the dollar. That makes total sense. And now I think it's something that's a little bit more, worldly accepted. For the novices out there, people who are still kind of don't understand what crypto is, it's no different than a fiat currency, right? It's a dollar, it's just not a physical dollar. It's a digital one. It still doesn't have any value whatsoever. It's only as valuable as it will be accepted around the world. And so far there's been pretty good adoptability. The interesting thing and this is something that I probably would have done, William, if we had more time, if I had more time, was taken the adaptation product lifeline of the internet over maybe like 30 years and like kind of and map the crypto one to it to see kind of like, hey, how long did it take people to adopt the internet before it started making $1 billion in e-commerce or something like that, or even more, and kind of like compare that to how crypto might, be traveling along that same product line, so you can sort of hedge your bets there.
Homework for Ricardo.
Homework for required. I hate homework. I like I'll pay people to do that. But that's a good one if you want to do that stuff on your own. I think that would be a good idea. It'd give you a little bit of idea, so where in the market or where in the product line the crypto market is. Personally, I have, and I'll let the boys talk a little bit about this as well. But personally, I own Bitcoin, straight up Coinbase. I think Bitcoin is a great sort of like store of value, whatever. And also recently, I bought XRP a little while ago, and that's another one, and that's used for cross-border payments. So one of the reasons I purchased that is because it has a technology that allows it to, go to cross-border payments. And I was literally just about to talk about that, William. And so, so what I've read is that the Fed, the central bank, has cleared XRP as of March 12th or the 15th to be used on its backbone service for international payment clearing. The federal bank, not the country, but the Fed, the Rothschild family or whoever the fuck owns that shit. So it will be you'll be able to pay other countries on these from so basically sovereign to sovereign payments and bank to bank payments.
You're talking about the Fed Bank in the U.S.?
No. I'm talking about the what's the international clearing system that we kicked Russia? SWIFT. So SWIFT. So XRP as of March 12th or 15th will be cleared for SWIFT, and that's going to be huge. Now, will it increase the value of XRP? Mike ran an AI analysis on this, and he came up with something which I don't know how much higher it's going to get. Now,
you have to do
you have
to do the multiples based on the market cap.
Right, the market cap, and so yeah. So see how many people are using it.
Yeah, so you have to do the multiples. Everybody thinks that Bitcoin's going to jump up to, everybody thinks Ripple is going to jump up to, let's say, Bitcoin or some of these other cryptocurrencies. The problem is Bitcoin's market cap compared to where XRP is, they would have to be so many more trillions of dollars in market cap to get to the point for XRP or some of these other cryptos to reach that price value. And from what I can see, I don't see it, but it would have to be substantial amount of money that's being put in there, and I just can't see at this point it getting up there. Now, does that mean over time it can't get to that point? Potentially, but I just, I ran a couple of the numbers, and I've read too many reports and financiers, people that are way higher than me that study this, have done studies, have literally been involved in this world a lot longer, and they've kind of come to the same consensus. The issue is, can it increase in value? Absolutely. Every asset can always increase in value. It's just how much could that increase to? And that's the problem. Everybody thinks everybody saw the short squeeze of GameStop and they're like, oh shit, I want to make as much money as fast as possible. And the reality of those situations happening is a dime a dozen. So is it possible? Maybe. Just don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the things with XRP specifically, like one of the reasons that I bought it was because of the cross-border payments. And so if you can imagine its usefulness in this sense, and every one of the crypto has its own specific usefulness, Bitcoin, store of value, Ethereum, contracts, those automatic contracts that you can store in there. And then I think XRP will be number 3. Is basically this. And so there's tons of people who work across borders who work and send money back to their families. And that is one of the main things that people do when they come from other countries to the United States. And so instead of involving 2 or 3 different banks and an old wire system, right, you can literally peer-to-peer send payments instantly without any kind of taxes or fees. We used to run a business here with some buddies of mine, and we were an intermediary for media buying. And so we were basically a clearinghouse. So all we did was accept money and then send money out. And all we did was send international wire transfers, and I did the accounting, and let me tell you, the international wire transfer fees, at the end of the month for the amounts that we were sending, they fucking add up a lot. I mean, we're talking about like tens of thousands, okay, a month, guys, and we were sending a lot of money. But so if you can eliminate that, why wouldn't I do that? Why would immediately? And so I think one of the reasons the SEC froze it when I bought it at about 40 cents was when I heard that it had just cut a deal with Bank of America to do bankless payments to Mexico, and then 2 days later the SEC shut that motherfucker down, or whatever it was, they were investigated or whatever. And so since then it's been 5 years, right? And only about 3 months ago did they release the actual coin back onto the market, and so I think they locked it up on purpose, and so we'll see. So that's what I think about XRP.
So I just want to talk about the crypto market just in general. I know I've seen a lot of conversations about legislations that's trying to be passed. David Sachs is, I think, the crypto king, or what is it, or of AI and crypto. He was recently on a podcast, All In, talking about how the difficulty of passing regulation has to go through so many committees in the United States, and I think it was something ridiculous. Like, I think it was like the Agricultural Committee or the FTC. There's so many different committees and partners that they had to go through to pass legislation, get laws passed. Do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely. I think we have a pro-crypto administration right now. I think they're going to try as hard as they can to do that. I think there's a number of votes that they can get to pass that. It's just the problem is you just don't know what's going to be in the legislation. I hate to say this, it's Uncle Sam. They're going to want to get their money somehow, some way. They're going to, if you're making money on these assets, they're going to want to get their tax revenue dollars. And the problem is, even though we have an administration right now that's pro keeping money in your pockets, the next administration that comes in, if it's not pro, keeping money in your pockets, they're going to tax you. They want their money. That's just how government has always operated. They want more money.
Yeah, for
they
sure.
want to take more. So,
for sure. Chris, sorry, no, go ahead, Mike. Finish up.
No, so William, you said, do you think the market cap of XRP can pass
Bitcoin?
I was going
to answer that question. Yeah.
I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think the amount of money that has to be thrown in, I think Bitcoin is a stabilized coin that people have turned around and they realize the utility of it. I think where it's valued at because of the price point, I think you have a lot of institutions throwing money into it. I feel I just can't see XRP overtaking them. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with Mike, and I'm going to just real quick before Chris talks. I know he's been in silence for a while. Just to give you guys from a behavioral standpoint, psychological standpoint. So all of this stuff is psychology based, right? Value is a perception thing, right? And so what we're doing is we have a society for which information is now digital, inputs are digital, and what we're doing is we're expanding on the aperture of the psychological games that we are able to play, the ones that involve value, right? And a value exchange equals in profit or so forth. And so when you think of Bitcoin, you have to think of something like the most popular girl in class, right? And so, with Bitcoin, people, the reason it's valuable is because a lot of people are invested in it, right? And just because the technology of, XRP or Ethereum or whatever works doesn't necessarily, it makes it valuable. It's great. The technology could be extremely useful, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's valuable perceived in the eyes of other people. So a lot of it is still based on this fiat currency of psychology and perception of value, perception of money. So none of it's really tied to anything except for that it's actually an exercise sort of in popularity. And most of the things that we have in our life contain value because they're widely accepted, including sanity in our words. So let's see how that goes. All opinions based on our research. All opinions based on our research.
Yeah, I won't belabor the point too much, but the one thing that Bitcoin has going for it that most of the other ones don't is that there's a finite amount that can be eventually mined regardless of what you do. So I think if any of these other sort of cryptocurrencies want to get on the Bitcoin level, they need to say that there's a finite number that will never be exceeded, and then because that's where Bitcoin's value, I think, comes in, is that, people think there's a race to the end. And so the value is sort of like speculative based on the fact that at some point in the future, there's not going to be any more left. But XRP, you could just continue to make more and more, just like printing money, just like anything else. So.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree totally, guys. So, that's a good on crypto. Like I said, this is just all opinionated stuff. We're not experts. We don't know. We'll hold a little bit, do your own research, guys. But, one of the good things is that some of the stock picks that we have are doing pretty well. Chris just reminded me that we mentioned a stock on October 7th at LEU, which is Centrus Energy. That stock was at $64 on October 7th, and today it's at $113.99. So if you're following the show and you're following some of our stock picks and so forth, definitely just a follow up on that one. That one's doing really well. I'm pretty sure that most of the ones that we mentioned are up from there. But yeah, like I said, do your own research. It's a lot of fun. And in today's economy, if you're not, in the market or betting on sports, you're you're living paycheck to paycheck pretty much.
Yeah, we typically, so Chris did a great job, doing some market research, seeing those stocks and, kind of seeing where it was going. Obviously that stock just, has performed very well. The stock market, like Ricardo has said over time, it's basically going to a casino. Do your research, and when you come to a determination and you like a stock, or you do the research and you feel like it's a good stock pick, jump in. Don't be afraid. That's the beauty of investing is investing is based on your research. It's based on what you have done and kind of what you feel. If you think a stock is going to go down, then don't buy it. If you think a stock has utility in the future, then buy it.
Or do whatever you want. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't give a fuck what you do with what I say. But we're not experts, so don't trust us.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, that's a good one. Crypto's on the rise, so take a look at that. What about some of these places to visit? What is this, Mike? You want to talk about favorite places to visit?
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys, what's your favorite vacation spot that you guys have gone to?
London.
London's your favorite spot? What about you, Ricardo?
London.
You think it's London? What made London so, your favorite spot
It's
to go?
dope. It's like all the cool
my boy.
It was like all the cool shit about the American cities without all the commercialization, but it's still like commercial. I don't know, man. I mean, it was just dope. I just had a good time there. A lot of history, really old, a lot of like the same fun. A lot of I'm a music guy, so like tons of good music there. Everyone's in London is jamming out. We went to go see I forgot the DJ name. Some badass DJ the first night we were there, like in the middle of like some alleyway. It was awesome. So I had a really good time. I could live there. I like New York too. Tropical guy. I mean, I like the tropics, but I mean, I live in San Diego, and tropics are good. Like if you're gonna retire. But I mean, when you're productive, it's really hard to justify wasting 4 hours of your day on the beach. So I would just give that advice.
Have you guys been to Mexico?
Yeah.
I've been to Taco Bell like 3 times.
I went to not Cancun. What's the other one?
Tijuana?
Yeah, no, there's one of the other resort towns. I can't remember, but we got like an all-inclusive resort for a wedding. That was cool, but like we didn't really leave the resort, so it's not. I mean,
you ever see like the cartel? You ever see like anything like that? Did you ever tell you when you were in Mexico you'd be careful on like the areas that you went or anything like that?
Yeah. Yes. I went to Rocky Point, Mexico during my my time at University of Arizona. Shout out Russell.
Which was in 1979, by the way. So
yeah.
1970s.
We went there on spring break, and it was like eight places that were like all packed with like 400 people each. So like all in a corner. And we lost one of our buddies, and I was leaving this place with my other buddy, and I see him, and he's got like these 3 guys with machine guns walking around him. And I was like, oh, fuck. And he speaks no Spanish. And like I had to go up there and whipped out the cash and was like, hey, he's with us. Like, please leave him alone, all in Spanish. Luckily, I spoke Spanish. And a couple $100 later, he was cool.
Yeah. Isn't Cabo like a resort area where a lot of people go to, like when it goes to spring break? Isn't that where like a couple of years ago? Cabo. Yeah, isn't that where like a couple of years ago there was like a shootout in the middle of the street between rival like cartels or whatever, and like there's supposedly like there's agreements between the cartels that like you can only sell this in this area and you can't go over here, and so forth.
Well, I mean, so Mexico as an example, there are plenty of places in Mexico where you don't need to like wander around and still have a good time and still enjoy the weather. So like there are plenty of all-inclusive resorts. They're a little more expensive, obviously, where you can just stay inside of the compound where there's security, drink your face off, do whatever you want, where you don't need to be like taking a tuk-tuk around to Thailand is a different thing. But
I would Yucatan. Go to the Yucatan, Tulum. What is it? Riviera Maya, Cancun. My family personally guarantees that place.
personally
Well,
guarantee
the reason why I ask it, yeah. The reason why I ask is, what do you guys think about what was it? The Mexican government, allowing now, or they passed a law where, or they said the United States can come in and go after the cartels. I don't want to be in Cabo, Tijuana, or any of
Oh
those
yeah, I saw the
areas.
details of that deal, and apparently we're going to let in 30% more bacon wrapped hot dog vendors. That was part of.
Tijuana dogs.
I quit.
Sorry,
I'm all for that. That's
the
a great
reason
deal.
why-
I love
so the
that
reason
deal.
why I loved London, all right, and I've been there a few times now. I really love the I call the juxtaposition between the old and the new. So like in the U.S., nothing's more than a couple hundred years old, at least like in our civilization, right? You know, if you talk about American Indians and stuff, there's stuff, but in the UK, you can literally like, I mean, the Tower of London, which was built in like, I don't know, 100 AD or whatever it was, like a few thousand years ago, and like right next to it is a Hilton hotel. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's just like crazy, right? The subway stop is like it's like a couple hundred yards away from the Tower of London. And so like you literally can get anything that you can think of as if you were like in New York City, anything that you could think of, you could get there, but also you can get a piece of like old culture just by walking a few yards away.
Yeah, it's like in New York, London is like Neiman's. New York is like Macy's.
How so? I don't
Like,
get that.
I mean, I don't know. It's just an analogy. But I mean, like, definitely, like, where, like, you have, like, old school brands that have been around forever, and then the other one is a lot of the new school brands, but they're presented in a really cool way, and there's enough culture there. Like, I think New York is fantastic. I don't know that besides Indiana, just because of its fantastic pricing on homes and good
fantastic
people,
me.
and Chris is there. I think New York would probably, I mean, people say Miami.
I love New York City.
I would go to New York, I would probably, have to sell a lot of things just to live there, but whatever.
Your liver.
Yeah, I don't know.
kidneys.
I don't know. Being in New York, the modern New York is not the same as old school New York, where it's got its name and it's got its culture. I hate to put it, like some people will say, I'm like not accurate. I'm sorry. Old New York was special. It was a 24-hour city. You could go anywhere, be anywhere for 24 hours. Restaurants, bodegas, clubs, bars, all this stuff. Nowadays, it's not. The other issue with New York is it's too fucking corporate now. Like back in the day, you could go to a restaurant. It was a mom and pop restaurant. You could go to a local bodega. You could go to a local corner store. Like, for example, you knew everybody. You could go to the bar down the street. It was a mom and pop bar. You'd go in. You knew the bartender by first name. Everybody lived in the same neighborhood. I can't tell you when it changed, but it was probably like late 90s, 2000. All of a sudden, corporate money came in. And it just completely changed the city. Every restaurant's a hospitality group. Every bar is part of something. It has big money in it. It has a theme to it. It's just, it's not the same feeling. I know you guys have visited. I know you guys have felt how New York is. But being here and growing up here, like, it doesn't have that same feeling, especially Midtown.
Well, I think what you're talking about is some of the things that the United States was really good at avoiding. And those are some of the byproducts of globalization. right? And so like when you think about globalization, you got to understand that like every country, right, it's based on like, oh, my country can produce coffee better than yours, so I'm just going to make coffee and then I'm going to send it to you, and then you produce whatever you do really well and you send it to me. And so what you have to understand is that like what America does best is buy shit, right? It is a consumer haven where you can sell something to anybody and become super rich. And so when you let down the walls of this wonderful Disneyland we've built for ourselves, you get the corporations from all over the place, right, with a lot of resources coming in to the best markets. And New York is traditionally one of the best markets because you have the most amount of people on the planet consolidated in the smallest amount of space. Well, the most amount of people that have any fucking money. I'm sure India is pretty tight, but nobody's buying anything, right? Living in the smallest amount of space with some of the highest real estate known to man. In London, I think is one of the only ones that's higher. Okay, and so when you put all of those factors together, right, you have to say that like, okay, well, what am I really seeing? What I'm seeing is that like before, some of these things that I think people are criticizing, including protecting the United States, bringing manufacturing back, and tariffs, right, even financial restrictions, are the things that we're preserving the mom and pop shops, and we're preserving some of the culture that Mike misses in New York. I'm not saying that it has to be one way or another, but in general, you have to understand that if we open the doors for everything, that there are very successful people in every single country of this world who are going to all want to bring their shit over here because we have the most fucking money.
But that's fine. But New York used to be about, like, the unique thing about New York was getting a experience, a cultural experience. Especially what I mean is, and I'm specifically talking about Midtown Manhattan. I'm talking about Manhattan just in general. You still got New York and Bronx. You still got New York and Brooklyn. You still got New York and Queens. I've already told you Staten Island, Staten Island's Jersey. So that's yada yada. So my whole thing though is Midtown. You used to have some great restaurants. You still do, but it's a hospitality restaurant. Everything is you always had transplants in Midtown, but now it's to a whole new level. You always had crime, but you at least had the police department there trying to help. They might have been corrupt back in the day, but you still had them trying to do their job. I think overall, I just miss old New York. I don't like this new New York. You go to a restaurant, it's $400. You go to a bar, it's $15-$20 a beer. That wasn't New York. It was always expensive, but you could still live in New York, pay your bills, go out and have some fun. There's all these new elements that are thrown into it that has just lost and made it 10 times worse. And I'm not a fan. And I know you guys visited and it's fun for you guys, but when I've seen it over time change, it bothers the shit out of me. And everybody nowadays that lives in New York is, oh, it's the same, it's the best, it's this. You didn't know how it used to be. And there's parts of that old school way that made it great.
I feel like that's a product of not just New York City, though. That's the country in general, where because everything's sort of moved in this very revenue generated world where everyone's trying to like make as much money as possible because of like some of the things we've talked about previously, where social media kind of throws some of these things in your face that you wouldn't normally have been exposed to living like an ordinary life. And so if people feel justified to increase their prices sort of to capitalize on the fact that New York City is where people come to visit. Because like San Diego, I feel like is still sort of in the middle and the prices have gotten out of control, right, since I lived here. But what I loved about San Diego versus some of the other cities like LA and New York City as examples is that in San Diego, I still felt like you could dink and dunk, what I called it, where like, you don't go to Taco Tuesday in downtown San Diego on, like on Tuesday, right? But if you want to go to a really good taco place on Wednesday, at like 4:00 or whatever, like you could always like find like DC, like every time I go back to DC at 4:00 in the afternoon, you can't go fucking anywhere. Like everywhere is full. Everywhere is packed.
I feel like that's why there's some of the nicest suburbs in the country are around Washington, D.C. It's because you can't fucking do anything, dude. Because you can't do anything.
Yeah, I felt like so like New York and I feel like DC is kind of similar, where it's just like there's just so many people and people are capitalizing on the fact that there's so many people, and so they increase their prices and people are still going out. But like there's other cities out there in the world, San Diego, maybe for a little while, where you can find ways to like if you can go out on a Wednesday night, if you can go out on a Thursday night, if you can you don't go to Little Italy on Saturday, you go to like North Park or whatever example. And I feel like maybe New York City used to be like that, but now because a lot of things have happened and like that population has sort of expanded out, and so now those little like sort of nooks and crannies that you kind of find are just less and less. I mean, there's like 11, 12 million people in New York City or whatever it is. I mean, it's hard, dude. I mean, it's not the same. The population is growing, and it's hard to keep up.
Good point.
The original topic, of course, was like vacation spots. So like Australia, I love Australia. You know what I love Australia, but it's
I've never been there.
Impossible to fly there. Like it's so far away.
South America. I mean, if you want to go somewhere like chill, that's cheap, and like like not the U.S., go to South America. I mean, I like Europe too. I mean, Europe is great, but there's a bunch of motherfuckers over there, dude. And a lot of it is heavily touristy. In South America, you can pretty much kind of like name your adventure there, and it doesn't cost you an arm or a leg. What else do I like? I've been to Canada.
If you can get away from like the issues that a lot of South American countries have. I mean, I feel like that's, a lot of the motivation in my mind about sort of annexing a lot of these South American countries, Mexico as an example, is because like it's not safe. It's not safe to travel around. Like I've been to Guatemala, and like if you can, it's great, but like if you walk down the wrong street, it's not the same as if you walk down the wrong street.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a list of countries that are pretty like safe, and then everything else you're kind of at your own risk, and I think a lot of those are in South America for sure. But based on the development of the government and the infrastructure, usually countries that have less infrastructure are going to be like more dangerous because there's less ability for the government to sort of oversee and track behavior. Absolutely, I think so too. What about you, Mike? Besides New York, what's your favorite?
I'd probably say I've traveled limitedly around the world, but I would probably say one of my favorites, believe it or not, is Wyoming. Stop it. It is a very nice place. I would say Wyoming. For me, the simplicity of the lifestyle plus the environment, just being outside, being in nature with mountains and cattle running around, for me, it was so peaceful. I think for me, visiting places, it's now based on my peacefulness, kind of relaxing, because I don't want to be in major cities anymore. I'm just tired of it. So going to areas like especially Wyoming and Montana, where it's like you're in the middle of nowhere and it's literally just land, peace, and it's like quiet and it's beautiful. I would probably say that's my favorite. I went to a KOA, which is like a camping ground on Wind River in Wyoming. I mean, I woke up, had a coffee, and it was so surreal, just the view. It was like Yellowstone, like the TV show. You just wake up. It kind of puts everything in perspective for you in life. Like, what are you trying to accomplish in life? Like, is it like the peacefulness that I felt that morning? I can't even describe it in words because it was just like this surreal feeling. The phones were basically like the service sucked, and you were just like sitting there just taking everything in.
So you like to search for like peace when you go on vacation. Yeah.
So my only question is though, how much of that is just the contrast between New York City and Wyoming?
I think it has a lot to do with his family too, like just in general, just being and his job, and just being like at a point where like there's a lot of communication. There's a lot, and when you go out somewhere that's peaceful, he's kind of cut off a little bit, so he's forced to like think.
I think when you're in New York and you're in these major cities, sometimes like Chris, you don't understand this. Indianapolis, like it's a city, but it's not like really a major city. Like San Diego is a major city, New York's a major city.
Chris lived here for 10 years too, dude.
I'm talking about his experience right now, being in Indianapolis, because everybody makes fun of me because I say it fucking wrong. So all you shut the fuck up. Um, anyways,
Or I won't.
Or I will say my favorite vacation spot is your mother's house.
Oh God, the mothers are
Anyways,
back.
She loves you.
well, you don't say it, Ricardo. I know you're coming with your joke. Don't fucking say
No,
it. So shut the hell up.
I'm chilling.
No, but the stimulation, because you're always around people, you're always around cars, you're always hearing noises, you're always, it's just never ending. Like, for example, my career as a lawyer, I'm always going, I'm always on top of it, I'm traveling somewhere, I'm doing something. So when you get the time to separate from it, you don't want to go to another major city. You kind of want the peace of just in tranquility.
That's what I mean. It's like, so how much of that is just that there's such a drastic contrast between your current experience and then being in Wyoming, and how much of it is like, if you went to Wyoming, how long would before you'd be bored? That's what I'm saying. So
No. I think that's what we're talking about, though. I think the benefit comes from the contrast itself, and not necessarily from from
you hit it
specific.
Also, the other thing for me is, outside of the peacefulness with no internet, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it is so mesmerizing, the horizon when you wake up. For me, like, the beauty of it. Everybody talks about major cities and the beaches, but nobody really goes into the middle of this.
I saw
Nobody really goes
morning mist and shit. Like when you're out in the woods, it's bomb.
Oh, it's awesome. So it's a combination of the peacefulness from, like, the separation between the two lifestyles, but it's also just very beautiful for me. I'm more about scenic now as I get older, so I enjoyed it. I found that to be amazing.
Yeah, nothing more scenic than waking up in that dew next to a half-naked moose in your bed and not remembering too much about what happened the night before.
Where's your sick fucking mind come from? Where does it, like?
Oh man, I
where's
saw
your mind at?
This weird ass documentary about a guy who was fucking his horses. It was weird.
Who watches that? Only Ricardo.
That's called Pornhub.
It was on Netflix. It was whack, dude. I forget what it was called, but check it out. Absolutely no. Pieces is in contra, because I have a buddy record. He's a guy that we just hired at www.Scorpion Percussion, and he lives on 200 acres, and he just got Starlink, right? And so when he came with us to this conference up in Long Beach a couple weeks ago, or in Anaheim, and man, he had the best time ever, and he was working and he was interacting and he was like on fire. I was like, holy shit! And he's like, yeah, man, I've never seen this many people in general, where I live. And so I think it has a lot to do with that contrast between what you're experiencing on the day to day, and it also has to do with a healthy balance of being social and like also being isolated and having some time to yourself, because I think both are necessary. I'm not a believer in this whole like, oh man, you can just be by yourself for the rest of your life. I really believe we're social animals. I'm not also not a huge believer in everyone being crammed up in the same place either. But I do believe the spectrum offers a lot of choices for everyone. Like I like to go in between. Sometimes I like to get out. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I want to be around millions of people. Sometimes I don't. But in general, I think it's the U.S. is the place to do that. Where is Mike? Mike disappeared. All right, I'm by myself, guys. Here in San Diego. Anyways, the other things that were coming up in the news is that I know that Kash Patel had gotten confirmed this week. That guy's loony. I don't know if you have looked at him, but he's crazy. He's got a crazy ass look in his eyes. I do like the fact that he's, aboard with getting some of these things released and some documentation and cleaning up the FBI. It does seem like some of these government services were being used for not the intended mission of some of these services. So it'll be interesting to see, what Kash brings up. I think he's kind of the right person for the moment. Do I trust that this guy can run the FBI and so forth on a legacy basis? I don't know. But I think he can definitely go in there and talk a lot of shit and get some stuff out. And I would really like to see even 20% of all the bullshit that's being hidden, just in a sense, is that, ultimately we're paying for it. If you want to do secret shit, then don't tax me. Okay? Let me keep my taxes and I won't ask about it. But if you can use our money to do secret shit, at least tell us about some of it. Cool, go to Hollywood, figure out how to get people keep them on the leash, and shit, but give us some information about the cool shit that you're using our money to do, or no one's gonna give it to you. Just talking about
Sorry
Cash
about that.
Patel, FBI type thing getting confirmed this week, Chris.
One of my buddies actually met him at a UFC event. I think it was several months ago. He said he was the man. Like, he was just really down to earth, very smart. I saw his confirmation hearing. He seemed like he was very composed. He's not a career politician like some of these other individuals. I liked his responses and I liked his composure with the way he spoke and how he was able to outflank. Like, sometimes during those confirmation hearings, you have to like really think about questions and like strategically respond. So you're outflanking some of the congressmen with the way that they're phrasing questions to try to have you commit to certain positions. He's very intelligent. You could see that by his strategy about how to get around some of those questions and how to hit them back at a later time when other senators ask them certain questions, correlating it back. I hope he does like a good job. I'm keeping my finger crossed. We'll see what happens.
I've always been kind of terrified about some of these government agencies that we've seen over the last few years and how biased they've become. And I mean, I totally understand. Like, I don't want to judge too much, but I felt like, in my time in the military, we didn't really care. I mean, it was like politics is politics, but that had nothing to do with the job that we had to do, A to B to C or whatever it was. And I feel like that what I've seen, obviously I'm not in the FBI or any of these, alphabet soup sort of institutions. There's definitely feels like there's been political bias that has sort of like seeped in, and I don't know. I don't know how to. I hope there's some change.
Agree. I mean,
concur.
definitely. I concur. Well, I mean, pretty much that's about it, guys. I don't know how much more you guys have to chat about. Chris, I don't know. Do you have any topics?
Your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris is out here, semi on vacation. He's got drill all weekend. I'll be playing tomorrow night at AC Lounge in San Diego. If you're in town, if you want to see Mike get in trouble in New York and request a lawyer, and you might get him, but who knows if you will. But yeah, tune in next week, guys. Check out our YouTube page. Check our shorts out. Check out our merch as well. Comment. Talk shit, say whatever. We're here. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll be back next week with our more formal show as usual, and back to the old routine in that time as usual. Shout out to my boy Mike in New York and my boy Elvis in Indianapolis. Be safe, guys, and we will see you next week.